Well, it's a new day, which means new efforts by the progressive left to try and control the First Amendment, our access to information, and of course, the narrative. Right now, we're dealing with the former Democratic chair of the FEC who's proposing broad regulations to eliminate fake news being shared on social media platforms. Now, there are already a lot of regulations that are favored by Democrats that are being toyed with at the moment in order to regulate the internet. But this proposal is going to add an extra layer of threatening libel suits against anyone who would share or retweet such disinformation. Now, the problem is there is no definition of what constitutes disinformation other than what the Democrats label as such. All this is going to do is intimidate Americans from sharing information on social media platforms. So this is Democrat Ann Ravel. It's her proposal. Oh, surprise, surprise, she lectures at Berkeley Law. Her proposal is titled "Fool Me Once, the Case for Government Regulation of Fake News." Because of course, Democrats are still pushing the disinformation that it was $100,000 spent by foreign governments who bought political ads on Facebook, which cost Hillary Clinton the election, as if that $100,000 in political ads on Facebook was able to match the $1.4 billion that was spent trying to get the American people to buy into the crooked Hillary Clinton. That didn't work. Obviously, this immediately came under fire from Republican FEC Commissioner Lee Goodman. He's been warning of the left's efforts to regulate political talk they don't like, which means sites like the Drudge Report, InfoWars, Breitbart, all of us have been heavily scrutinized, constantly being threatened. But Goodman has said the regulations cover every type of political content, even discussion of issues on any platform, from Facebook to the New York Times. So what's going to happen is if a user goes to share content that's in dispute, a little pop-up is going to appear on their computer before they hit retweet or send, and it's going to remind them of the libel laws, the definition of libel, so that they can say, hey, look, you know what? You might be guilty of wrongthink here. We're going to sue you. You could be sued, and you might have to pay a lot of money. So there is no real disinformation definition here. Anyone could label anything in dispute if they disagree with it or they see it as disinformational. So this little wrongthink pop-up is going to come up on just about anything that people are going to want to share or retweet, other than, of course, CNN. Like, think about it. What liability would someone have for sharing, say, independent journalist Laura Loomer's scoop that showed the Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock had actually checked into the Mandalay Bay Hotel days before officials said he did? That would have been considered disinformation until, of course, it was proven true days later. And now, of course, today everyone is talking again about this infamous Trump dossier. This is a perfect example of how the left creates disinformation. BuzzFeed published this dossier January 10th, despite a note at the top of the article saying the allegations are unverified and the report contains errors. It's totally fine for them to push out disinformation because it agrees with their political agenda. Now, where's the libel pop-up on anyone who wanted to share that story? POTUS just wants to know who paid for it. The Democrats, the FBI, the Russians, or all of them. And of course, CNN immediately blasts the president for suggesting the FBI could have paid for this dossier somehow. But apparently they must have forgotten their own reporting, which showed that there was an arrangement, even if it was short-lived, there was an arrangement between the FBI and David Steele. They were going to pay for some of his expenses. So this is just one angle of the story. But now they want to say that, President Trump is pushing out conspiracy theories. Well, he's talking about your own articles, so you need the wrongthink pop up on your articles if anyone wants to share them. Because, of course, CNN has been peddling the whole Russiagate scandal for more than a year now with, again, zero evidence. It's in dispute. And they're really surprisingly quiet about the real Russia scandal that has now just broke this week, that's ensnared the Obama administration, the Podestas, the Clintons, and the Clinton Foundation. There isn't a single story about it from what I can see on their homepage. Oh, they want to distract you with an alleged phone call between Trump and a Gold Star mom. That conversation itself is in dispute. It could be classified as disinformation. So where's the libel pop up for all of the news organizations that are peddling and profiting off of this story? that's in dispute. You see how this is just going to ensnare everyone? This is a tangled web you're weaving here, Democrats. Not surprisingly, we knew this was going to happen. The three big networks have censored the latest bombshell on the Russia Uranium One Clinton scandal. Don't you think this latest bombshell report is obviously going to be labeled in dispute because the big networks, they're not going to talk about it, even though it's backed up by government documents, key witnesses, and key interviews and testimony? Right, it's going to be labeled in dispute, so no one wants to share it. So if you don't find it on CNN or any of the other big networks, it must not be real news. Let's not forget, 3 CNN journalists were actually forced to resign after the network had to retract a story they wrote alleging ties between Trump's allies in Russia. And here, this is rich. George W. Bush emerged today to slam America's obsession with conspiracy theories. This is from the man that peddled the most harmful conspiracy theory of modern times. He asserted that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. This was a conspiracy theory that was peddled, dutifully sold by the deep state intelligence agencies and the mainstream media. It led to the invasion of Iraq, which of course led to the deaths of thousands of U.S. troops and to the deaths and displacement of millions of Iraqis. A lot of people say this is what caused, this could be the root cause of the Syrian civil war, the rise of ISIS, the international migrant crisis. George W. Bush with all these seats and you can't even take one. Now look, this is an incredibly reckless proposal. It's being sought by the left to regulate speech that they do not like. They want to control the flow of information that the public has access to, because as the public is finding out more and more that they've been lied to or misled or disinformed by the mainstream media, they're looking elsewhere for their information. This is why they really were able to see another side of Hillary Clinton other than what the mainstream outlets were peddling. This is why she lost. But ultimately, we know as long as we stick to the truth, this type of proposal and regulation is going to ensnare the very mainstream media like CNN and New York Times and all these other bastions of leftist propaganda. They're the ones that are going to get repeatedly caught up in it because they're getting called out on their fake news.
Don't be rude.
Attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
In ancient times, man roamed the earth in a constant state of hunting or being hunted. Introducing Caveman, where cutting-edge science meets ancient super nutrients. Secure your bottle right now at InfoWarsStore.com.